Today, I want to talk about something that is not directly related to open innovation, making open innovation activities more efficient, to helping your business succeed. However, it is still very much related to it. It is related to success of innovation, thus success of your company. I want to speculate about why there are less individual inventors nowadays and how it influences the innovation process and what we should do about it and whether we should do anything about it. I was at the National Museum of Technology in Warsaw, and there is this one thing that caught my attention, and it was the fact that when we were going through different halls with more or less early inventions, almost near each one of them, we saw a portrait and a short bio of a person who invented that. Later, as we got closer to inventions of the 20th century, I stopped seeing these posters with individual inventors and started seeing more information about companies that presented their breakthroughs to the world. And I thought that this is really interesting, why and how this shift from individual to corporate happened. And I believe there are more obvious reasons and there should be less obvious ones too. So let's talk about that. And after I share my opinion about reasons, I will talk about how it influences the innovation process and what you and your company can do about that. And if you have some insights and thoughts on this topic, please feel free to share them in the comments below. Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Lisa and I've been working for years on organizing collaborative university competitions for world well-known companies to solve their extreme innovation challenges, and now I continue my journey with the goal to foster innovation by helping different parties of the innovation process collaborate and co-create. On this channel, I explore collaboration projects for innovation management, share my experience in managing these projects and processes, and uncover strategies for making collaboration efforts more effective. So the very first reason that came to my mind when I started thinking about why there are fewer individual inventors nowadays is the complexity of technology that we have today. Think about any new technology we are presented with today, like AI, for example, or we can talk about supercapacitors or batteries, even, like packaging material. Like, you don't have just paper nowadays. Like, if you look at the bag with chips, you have multiple layers there. So these technologies and breakthroughs we see today are just so complex, and it's incredibly difficult for one person to create something entirely new all by themselves. Modern products, innovations in the 21st century require knowledge from different areas. These devices and products rely on expertise from multiple fields, and it's nearly impossible for one person to have all that information. And even if you think about materials, new materials that we have today, like even developing new materials require knowledge from different areas. Life is getting more complex, and so are the technologies that we use. We are acquiring more and more knowledge over the years, like every day even, and that makes it hard for a single individual to come up with something truly innovative on their own. That's why collaboration is so important. That's why creating together is essential, because, that's pretty much the only way we can actually bring something completely new into the world. As I started talking about knowledge and acquiring new knowledge, I'm going to continue with that because this might be another reason. We have gained more knowledge in all the different areas. We have more knowledge about chemistry, about physics, about all these basic sciences. We know more about biotechnology, materials, food technology, about everything. We have accumulated so much information over centuries. I'm not saying that we know everything about the world. Obviously, we don't. We don't know a lot about the universe we live in. I still think that a lot of the nowadays theories about how things are might be wrong, but at the same time, we already have a lot of information about what is around us. So it is more difficult to be an expert in different areas. Usually, researchers are very much focused on one single area of their research. And since nowadays you need to combine knowledge from different areas to come up with an innovative product, it becomes more difficult for them to come up with something new when they work on their own. Again, complexity of technology, it plays its role here. And one person simply cannot have enough knowledge from all these different fields. It was easy in the past, I believe. Inventions were simpler back then. Well, not like simple, obviously. For that time, they were quite complex. And yeah, there were definitely breakthroughs, but still, compared to what we have nowadays, they were simpler. And yes, they required less knowledge. Now, the next point is about money, and not only money, but resources in general. Innovation is extremely expensive nowadays. You need a lot of money, a lot of investment. Again, coming back to the point that technologies today are very complex, you need more. You need more resources, more time, more money in order to come up with something new. And for an individual inventor, it is very difficult to have all these resources at their disposal. Just think about building a new company. I'm not talking about a software startup, but something that is focused on manufacturing physical products. Think about how much money you need to actually do that. Because you need equipment, you need machinery for manufacturing, but also you need equipment for doing research, and the proper equipment is quite expensive. Then you need raw materials to do your experiments, to produce things, you need to do testing, you need facilities where you will be doing all of that, and of course you need people, others to help you. So that's all very, very expensive. I'm not even talking about growth, I can't even imagine having a small company that you start in one room and somehow growing it to the level of an industrial leader, like of a big company with thousands of employees. I think that's nearly impossible nowadays. You need tons of money. So you need many investors backing you up. I mean, you can do that, of course. Like, for example, there was this Swedish battery startup, Northvolt. They received investments from many different companies, from big automotive players, and that's why they were able to build their facilities, gigafactories in different places. And even they failed. Like, they filed for bankruptcy, and as far as I know, they're getting acquired by an American battery company. So anyway, what I'm talking about is resources. It is too expensive to do all that on your own. And there is also one more thing that is connected to resources. In order to actually get them, often, unfortunately, you need to conform. Meaning, if what you focus on is something that is different from mainstream research, mainstream things, trendy things, it might be difficult to get funding for your project, for your business, because investors and governmental institutions are still too scared of anything too unconventional. So even in the area of innovation, you need to conform. Actually, I do think that the area of innovation is pretty conservative, if I'm being honest with you. And that's another reason why we have fewer individual inventors nowadays, unfortunately. I hope it will be different in the future, really. I hope we will learn to make braver and more thoughtful decisions. So we will see more individuals, more creative people getting investments to explore their offbeat ideas, something that doesn't follow what everyone else is doing. Now, the next reason is connected to the corporate world, and I do believe that the corporate world is taking over. So yeah, that's why we have less individual inventors these days. If we think about it, everything is about business these days. In general, when it comes to innovation specifically, most of it is about the corporate world and business. In most cases, if you don't have rich parents, you have to work for someone. And if we're talking about researchers and engineers, you have two options. Again, either you stay in academia, where most of your research will stay in the lab, which is a whole different world. And I do think that this world is also not about innovation. It's a lot about papers. That's what you need to do in academia. You need to write papers, or you join the industry. Of course, again, you can start your own company, but let's be real, if you have no investment right from the start, it's not an option. Just remember that thing that I mentioned, that you need a lot of resources to start your own company. And then once you join the industry, once you're part of these giant companies, you become a cog in a big corporate system. You have a very specific area of work you have to focus on. You don't even have the chance to try something different unless you're specifically assigned to it. You stay within your scope of work, which is very limited, and you have to just focus on that one piece of the process, because for large businesses, processes are everything. So it is very difficult for you to shine and explore and try something. You have to comply. You have to, again, conform. And that's another reason why I believe we have fewer individual inventors nowadays. Even if someone is very talented, there is a big chance they will be buried somewhere in that corporate machine without a chance to do something truly outstanding. Moreover, for a company, it's not really reasonable. It doesn't make a lot of sense for them to praise an individual inventor, not only because they need to step out from established processes to let an individual create something, but also because businesses want to own the invention. They want to own intellectual property rights so that they can commercialize the solution. And it's also risky. In general, if we are talking about big inventions, breakthroughs, it's just risky. And in general, big companies tend to focus more on incremental innovations rather than radical ones. But we will talk about this later. I also want to mention the existing patent system, the system that protects intellectual property. And this is another reason I believe why we have less individual inventors. First of all, it's quite expensive to actually file a patent. You need to write it properly. You need to take into account the right details. And for that, you might need some services, some specialized help from a patent attorney, which costs quite some money. And there are also filing fees. And of course, you need to maintain the patent over the years. So it's not cheap. And again, it is quite complicated to file a patent. Then again, just having a patent means nothing. What you need to do is to commercialize your invention. You need to prove to the market that you have something valuable. Then, having a patent protects you, but only to a certain extent. Patents expire, the information about your invention is public. It means others can create something similar. That's why, for example, there are still company secrets like the Coca-Cola's recipe. It's not patented, it's a company secret. But not patenting for an inventor is also a problem, because then competitors might just copy your invention in a blink of an eye, and if you don't protect it, you just might lose it very easily. The next point is that nowadays we have fewer radical inventions and more incremental ones. Again, I believe that this is partially connected to the fact that technologies are quite complex and we have already invented quite a lot of things in the past, but only partially, of course. But honestly, I think there is still a lot to do, especially in fundamental science. There are so many things that we don't know, but in general, when it comes to our daily lives, if you look around, there are lots of things that already kind of solve many of our everyday problems. So the consumer is kind of fulfilled, they're satisfied, we have a lot of things around that make life easier, that make our life better. Of course, we have needs that are still uncovered, but another point is that big companies, again, they don't like to risk. They don't like to come up with something entirely new. It's too much for them. They just do their stuff, they produce some products, they sell it, and they don't want to improve much. They don't want to come up with something new, because why would you do that if you're doing well enough already with your old product? There is no point, right? So yeah, companies tend to focus on improving their current products and finding ways to improve their solutions by, 10, 20, 30% at best. But innovation these days is much less about radically new ideas. But again, I personally think that there are so many more things that we still can do, and radical things. But yeah, it is what it is. Again, it's about the corporate world. And one more point that I want to mention is connected to underappreciation of scientists, researchers, and engineers in our society. I think this is becoming a big problem, and it's going to be even bigger in the future, because these days there are fewer people interested in science and engineering. I believe scientists and engineers are underpaid and undervalued. Nobody is talking about great scientists or engineers. Everyone's focused on celebrities, sports people, singers, actors, models, and influencers. So kids want to become these rich and famous people, and when you're a scientist, you are most likely neither rich nor famous. I would love it to be changed, because many things around us that we use every day are created by researchers, engineers, and scientists. And we need to value them more. We need to pay them more. We need to praise them more. We need to make these professions popular. And when society starts doing that, when scientists and engineers start getting more money and more appreciation, more kids will want to become scientists. More kids will want to study chemistry and physics instead of, let's say, marketing. And I'm saying that as a marketer myself. Unfortunately, I think that a lot of very talented people who could become great in their fields, like they could become great chemists, great physicists, great inventors, but they don't choose this path because of social pressure, because they need to feed their families, they need to make money, and yeah, they have to choose something else. So yeah, all these factors that I mentioned, all these points, they contribute to why we don't see a lot of individual inventors nowadays. That's what I think. Again, if you have other ideas, please share them. But what does it mean for the business that is heavily invested, or not heavily, but still invested in innovation, R&D activities? And what does it mean for individual creators, for individual inventors? So let's cover that. And the first point is, of course, connected to collaboration and cooperation, something that I have been propagating here on this channel. Companies need to collaborate. Companies must focus more on the open innovation approach when your R&D activities are not internal, but involve a number of external collaborators. Even if we're talking about companies with thousands of employees, still, with the amount of knowledge that we have today, it's obvious that even these companies don't have all these talented people in the world. Even if your company is the biggest player in the market, you don't have every exceptional researcher. And more importantly, you don't have experts and talents from other areas in your company. That means if you want to build something big, something bold, something truly innovative, if you want to make a breakthrough, you must collaborate with other organizations and individuals not associated with your company. Because again, new technologies are about connecting many different areas, and you need to learn open innovation and open innovation processes, how to collaborate with others, how to build bridges with other companies and institutions, how to make great things together, because this is basically the only way. And I think it's going to be more like that in the future, because the technology will become even more complex in the future. And by collaborating with others, you innovate faster, which is also so important for the business nowadays. Another point, despite the fact that we have fewer individual creators and inventors these days, I still believe that companies should pay more attention to these talented and creative individuals that work for these companies, who can contribute a lot with their ideas and their work to the success of innovation. You always have bright individuals in your team. Well, you might not have them if your processes are too inflexible and all these people just left your company. This might be the case, but in general, you most likely have some outstanding individuals working for you, and you need to give them more freedom and look for less rigid processes for them. Because I believe that processes in any business are extremely important. I think you must have them, but in my opinion, they give like a foundation for your innovation activities, but they alone will never create an innovative product. You need people to do that, and you should still be flexible, and you should still focus more on people and their ideas so that you can get outstanding results. You should allow them to create and, again, give them freedom to explore and make mistakes. I honestly don't believe that you can come up with something great or outstanding if you're focused too much on the process. I don't believe inventions come from just following rigid processes. Breaking rules and disrupting these processes often is extremely, it's needed, it's necessary for innovation. So I want companies to focus more on people, especially in teams connected to innovation. I want to see more managers to focus on people, because then you will be able to create. And then we should take these talented individuals and we should make them work together to create an outstanding product. And this is something that, again, managers, I believe, should focus on. But then what should talented creators, inventors do? I think that they should unite and start their own companies, their own startups. They should create their own products. They should look for other talented individuals, talented marketers, managers who would help them make this happen. They should look for other talented creators with ideas from other areas so that they can combine their notions and create something new. We need more people like that, because yes, maybe we don't have a lot of individual inventors nowadays, but I strongly believe that if we want to continue innovating, continue progressing, we must focus on our uniqueness combined with the uniqueness of others. Like, I have to say that I was watching this show, which is called Build and Band. It's from Netflix. I didn't expect much from it. It was just something to watch while eating lunch or dinner. And there was this one band, so unique, so talented. You see absolutely different people, different individuals, very strong, very powerful, extremely talented, each on their own. And they formed a band. And oh my God, that was so beautiful, so powerful. You could just feel it, and because their performances, they give me goosebumps every time I watch it. This is the true power of co-creation. This is how you build something so outstanding and innovative. So you bring individuals with their ideas, with their talents, and you make them collaborate. And that's how you create something truly radical. And yeah, that's how you create a breakthrough. And I hope that we will see more of that. I hope that we will see more of that in the corporate world, in the world of innovation. I hope that we will see more teams, even within big corporations, within these large companies, that bring together outstanding individuals and give them freedom to work together and create and collaborate. And that's what I think we should focus on. I believe in the power of an individual to challenge the status quo. And I believe that the best work and greatest breakthroughs can be made when there is a group of individuals working together, not just a group. Well, I hope this video was somewhat interesting, maybe, and gave you some food for thought. And yeah, if you have any questions, please feel free to share them in the comment section below. If you have any ideas, any suggestions about the topic about individual inventors, please again feel free to share them. I'd be happy, and I'm very much interested in your opinions. So yeah, I wish you good luck with your innovation activities, with your innovation projects. And yeah, hope to see you next time. Have a good one. Bye!